Please state your full names for the record.
Robert John McBride.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes.
Do you swear that the evidence that you will give will be the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you.
What is alleged here is that former Hawks head Anwar Dramat and former Gauteng Hawks head Shadrack Sibiya had orchestrated and executed the arrest of Zimbabwe suspects and unlawfully handed them over to the authorities in Zimbabwe. Now, McBride says when he was appointed, was it 2014, he immediately asked for an update on high-profile cases, and among those that he was updated on was the Zimbabwe rendition matter. He was immediately concerned because the entire dockets had been compiled by crime intelligence officials. Now, this is highly irregular. Crime intelligence provide intelligence services. They're not detectives. They don't go and get statements. They don't go and compile dockets. They don't do anything of the sort. But in this instance, it was crime intelligence which had compiled the docket, and they handed it over to Ipid. And the acting head of Ipid at the time had in fact instructed the investigator to take the docket and cooperate with crime intelligence. McBride making the point that this was highly irregular. He's gone on to say that he had ordered further investigations, a review of the evidence that was already in the docket, and ultimately turned out that exculpatory evidence had emerged which cleared Dramat and Sibiya of any involvement in this rendition. And such was the docket that was submitted to the NPA, as well as a report to then Police Minister Nathi Nhleko. Despite this, Nhleko went and suspended Anwar Dramat, publicly claiming that it was on the basis of the investigation conducted by Ipid. This raised concerns for Robert McBride because the report they had submitted did not state this. They actually made no recommendation of prosecution, no recommendation of internal disciplinary matters. What they later understood is that the minister, and they don't know how, had obtained a provisional report. The provisional report was based on the docket which had basically been compiled by crime intelligence, which had implicated Dramat and Sibiya in the matter. Despite having a later report which had been signed off by McBride, you remember the provisional report was not signed off by McBride. It was signed off just by the investigator. Despite having a final report signed off by McBride, Nhleko insisted on relying on the provisional report and taking action against Dramat. And is this evidence which McBride says, that they had a plan they had to pursue, and it didn't matter what evidence came out in front of them, they were going to get rid of Dramat and Sibiya. And that's the evidence as we have it so far.